Hey, what's up, everybody? Marcos Villegas for Fight Up TV, powered by stagefront.vip, being joined with Abel Sanchez as we kick off this new year, 2024. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you as well, Abel. And the one thing I wanted to touch on with you and discuss, I've been seeing a lot of online conjecture about who should get Fighter of the Year for 2023. I've seen a lot of names thrown out consistently, though. The 3 or 4 that show up is Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, Devin Haney, and David Benavidez. But I think Inoue and Crawford are the ones that I see mostly from people. I've heard arguments for both. I've seen people do videos. Antonio Tarver got very, very passionate about why he felt Crawford should be Fighter of the Year over Naoya Inoue. But Abel, just given your perspective, who do you think should get the nod for Fighter of the Year in 2023?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And yes, I've noticed that on social media. So I went back and went through their records and who they fought last year. And from what I gathered and what I saw, I thought Inoue should get Fighter of the Year. Benavidez, Crawford, Canelo for me are tied for second, and I wouldn't even venture to say who would, in my opinion, who would get it. I do know that I said in the past that, in my opinion, Fighter of the Year is the guy's making most money, and Canelo's the one that is making most money. So I would lean towards that. I think.
Wow, that's gonna fans are gonna be like, "What, Abel? Isn't Fighter of the Year the guy that accomplished the most?
Is the guy that the most in your bank, the most zeros? Absolutely. You don't gauge a business. You don't gauge a business by how nice the guy is, the CEO is. You gauge a business by the zeros.
But you gauge sports people by like what they achieve, like with the accomplishments.
What they bring in. They could have fought the greatest fighter, had 10 people in the audience. That doesn't make them Fighter of the Year. I think you have to gauge it, in my opinion anyway. I think you have to gauge it by revenue in anything, in any business, in your business. Listen, if nobody watches this, it's not going to do anything good for you, is it? But the more people that you get put butts in the seats, the better it is for you. So
yeah, but that's not
Inoue,
like,
as far as accomplishments, Inoue is number 1 for me.
Okay. All right. I think fans are gonna be like, oh, okay, now Abel, yeah.
But as far as the number 2, I would have to go with Canelo because of what I just said. They're both Canelo fought twice, Crawford fought once, Haney fought once.
Twice, right? No, Lomachenko and
was that the
Lomachenko and this Regis one.
Well, I stand by what I said. I think the Inoue should be Fighter of the Year, and I think Canelo's number 2, tied very closely with Crawford and Bivol up there too. Shoot, so there's a lot of them at number 2, but number 1 should be Inoue.
That's clear for you, right?
That's very clear.
Yeah. Okay. So why is it very clear? Why are you giving him that honor? Because I've seen a lot of people tell me, and Antonio Tarver even too, they'll say, well, who has Inoue fought? He hasn't fought anybody. These guys don't have names. Like, look at who have they fought after? Like, it shouldn't count. The competition isn't there for him to get that honor. And then they'll add, and he didn't beat another pound for pound fighter. Like a point that I've seen is, well, Crawford beat Spence. Spence was on the pound for pound also, and he dominated him. And Inoue didn't fight a guy who was on pound for pound. And who are these guys that he's beaten?
I think I've said it in the past. In fact, in the last blog, I said that his negative is that he doesn't fight here in the States. If he was fighting here in the States, all those fights, doesn't matter who he fights, he'd be at the top. Why? Because people are watching him. It seems like the journalists, the voters are all here in the States. So he's not doing that. But he beat a guy that I thought was going to destroy him in Fulton. Really, and he manhandled him just like Crawford did to Spence. He manhandled him easy. And I thought Fulton really, and if you watch some of the interviews that I did, I thought Fulton was the man at that weight. And I was so surprised. So again, I say that if he was fighting here in the States, I think that he'd get more recognition. He doesn't get it because he's not here in the States.
Yeah, no, this is the thing that I brought up to people. Just because the opponents he's faced are not known doesn't mean they're not good. And if
Right.
you look at the opponents, like they're not just some like random guy. Like
No.
consistently for this last year, it's either been the champ at that division or the number one or number two.
Yeah.
And just because they're not known doesn't mean they're not nobodies and they're not good. He's consistently knocked off and beaten champions in the number one. And he's done it in this year in a huge way, like in a year in like 10 days. And yeah, I know if you're going for like fighter of the year, you don't count those 10 days, but like, look, in a year and 10 days, the dude went undisputed at 118, went up to 122, and faced the number one guy. Was seen as a live dog. I feel like some people had him as a slight favorite or an even money fight with Fulton, and like you said, destroyed him, unified the division, and then in the next fight goes up a weight again and does undisputed. Like you in terms of accomplishments, like you can't, regardless of the argument, oh, who did he do it against? Like, where are those opponents after? That doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
what
Well,
you, yeah,
we caught the same slack when Gennady was rolling through the middleweight division. Well,
yeah,
who's he
that's right.
fighting?
Yeah.
Who's he fighting? He's fighting the number ones and number twos and next champions. That's who he's fighting. That we don't know him here because they don't fight here. That's irrelevant. The fact that he's destroying them, Inoue, and the fact that Gennady destroyed his when he was coming up or going through the middleweight division really shouldn't be a criteria. It should be that he's doing what he's doing. Oh yeah, but it's a weak middleweight division. Well, you can say that about any division at any time if somebody's dominating. No, Inoue did or is doing what we would hope that a fighter of the year would do, and that's destroy his divisions and the divisions that he's moving up to.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I'm glad you actually brought it up. The whole weak division thing. Like, oh well, he's in a weak division. Like, I guess what do you say to that?
I say that anytime somebody is head and shoulders above the people in his peer group, people are going to say that. The fans are going to say that because he's destroying them. But the fact is that he's that much better than anybody. He was that much better at 108. He was that much better at 112. He's that much better at these divisions that he's dominating right now. So I think that he's. I think I heard this before. Once in a decade, or once in 20-year kind of fighter that is able to dominate. Of course, his time's going to come, like everybody else's, whether it's father time or he meets that guy that's got his number. But he is special. Gennady was special in his time. Floyd was special in his time. Julio was special in his time. It wasn't that it's the weak division. It's just that's the kind of fighter that they are for that era.
Yeah, and well, the other thing too is like, okay, because I've heard this a lot, like covering the sport, like he's in a weak division, da 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 da. But it's like it's not the fighter's fault. Like you said, like they're so above the rest of their other competitors that like it really makes you realize like how damn good they are. But it's like it's not their fault. Like they're in a weak division in that particular point in time,
So
because they're just doing their job.
so
They're
are
yeah.
we to say that before he got a draw somewhere in his 80th fight or a loss in his 80th fight, Sugar Ray Robinson was in a weak division this whole time?
Mm.
No, it just he was dominant. He was just that good for that period of time. Or Ali when he was or Tyson when he was undefeated. Was he in a weak division? No, he was just that dominant for that. But there comes a point in everybody's career where either they catch up to him or he had an off night or because that's going to happen to Louis too, or he goes up a little too much weight, where the guys are going to be able to take the power. But right now he is the man, in my opinion.
Yeah, with the weak division thing too, like at the end of the day, he's doing what's expected of him. Like he's knocking off the one, number two, number three. Like that's all you can do, regardless in what division you're in, regardless of who you have there as a dance partner. Like that's what's done in any sport. Like, oh, they're in a weak conference. Not their fault. Like they're still playing against the people that are ranked the highest in their conference, in their
Correct.
division, and they're knocking them out. They're steamrolling them.
If he wasn't there, it would have been a strong division. It would have been, oh, there's so many great fighters in the division. Look, they're undefeated. They're fighting each other. It just so happens that he's there.
Very, very true. Now on the flip side, could you? What is your argument if you do have one, or if you had to make one, to have Crawford over Inoue as a fighter of the year? And I've heard a lot of things, but I'll kind of chime in here as you knock him out, Abel.
I said this before. He needs another one. Just like I said about David, he needs another one. He needs to show us twice. Crawford has never done what he done to Spence, to anybody of name. Neither had Benavidez. Benavidez has been beating people, but not really somebody that I would consider or the public considers somebody. So if he does it again, then of course. But then again, what if David does it again to another A fighter? What if Canelo fights Munguia and then fights David and he does it? So they have to do it in consecutive times. I think for me to consider, and I think for the fans to consider them being fighter of the year or number one pound for pound or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, some people online I did see like, oh well, you can't give a fighter of the year if they only fight once. Is that true, Abel? Can you or no?
Oh, you can if he's had those dominant performances, real dominant performances prior to that. For let's just say when Gennady 20 knockouts in a row, when he's knocking everybody out. Crawford didn't do that, and neither did Benavidez. Really, the way that Canelo did, let's just say, what he did to Plant, and Benavidez couldn't do it to Plant. And Inoue has been doing that from 108 to the present. So now that we're seeing him more in the States, there should be more consideration. I would hope that he would fight here in the States more. And now that he's in a division where there are more fighters from the States, maybe we'll get a chance to see him more often here in the States, because the little guys are all in Japan or in Europe, let's just say, or Asia. So we don't get to see them, the good ones, that much here. So we can't, we don't give them the recognition I think that we should.
Yeah, and they fight like at 4 in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
I love boxing, but if I have a long day, I am not waking up at 4 in the morning unless it's something like a fight that I'm like, I cannot miss this. And even then, I'm like complaining that I'm like, man,
And even the great guys that we had here, Ricardo Lopez's and those small guys that we had here, all fought over there. So we never got to see the fighters from over there because, again, it was 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning, and I'm not getting up at 2 in the morning to watch anything.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. But back on the subject of Crawford and the fighter of the year argument, they mentioned like I had said, he fought and destroyed another fellow pound for pound stalwart, so dominant that and became undisputed, that in itself, because it was a name opponent, because it was Errol Spence, has more weight than what Inoue's done with what people have said lesser competition, or not as known compared to Crawford and what he did to Spence.
I go back to what I said from when Gennady's reign.
Yeah.
Nobody knew the guys Gennady was fighting. That doesn't mean that nobody knew them. They were champions. They were number ones, but he was still knocking them off. And I think that's what Inoue's doing. That we knew Spence here because Spence is a homegrown product, and that's consideration. But the guy is doing what he's doing to very good fighters. Yeah, I'm talking about Inoue.
Yeah, I also heard, some people throw in the name of Devin Haney as fighter of the year. He had a spectacular year. When you look at what he did on paper, defended his undisputed titles against Vasily Lomachenko, and then just completely dominated a champion in Regis Prograis, moving up to 140 pounds. But I don't know. The thing to me is why like it kind of knocked him down. Well, one, because Inoue had a freaking spectacular year. Like you can't undisputed, unified, undisputed. That's very hard. And Crawford, huge win, but once undisputed. Yeah, he was dominant, but when you unify division as the smaller guy, moving up and you destroy that guy, and again as a smaller guy, move up and you become undisputed. Like it's just hard to contend with that. But the thing with Devin is he had a very disputed decision with Vasily Lomachenko, and I feel like that kind of took some of the weight away for his claim for fighter of the year for 2023.
For me, I go back to what I've been saying all along. It's who puts butts in the seats. And if you can't put butts in the seats, even if you look spectacular, to me, it's not enough to be fighter of the year. Let's just say, for instance, let's just say Tyson Fury fights Usyk in his next fight, okay, and it's and Tyson Fury wins, but the fight generates $500 million or $1 billion. Who's fighter of the year? He is. He is. Why? Because it's about, in my opinion, it's about what you generate. It's the buzz. If it makes that kind of money, that means the buzz is that. That means the buzz is there. What kind of buzz do you have for a Crawford Spence fight if they do it again? Now, for an Ennis and a Crawford fight, you'd have a lot more buzz, I think, because Ennis is right now making a lot of noise and he's looking spectacular. If Inoue fought one of our champions here in the States, a big name, that would create some buzz. Why? Because he is creating a buzz. If Devin Haney fought, let's say, Davis, who would be the A fighter? Davis would be the A fighter because he creates the buzz. So that's why I say, to me, is who puts butts in the seats is guys should have the more consideration.
That's, I don't know. That's an interesting point. I don't know how I feel about that, Abel, because like it's like at the end of the day, like shouldn't athletic performance be the one that like really determines all that? Like,
listen, we're going to be talking here for another hour or whatever we're talking. If we're not controversial, nobody's going to watch us. Correct? Correct. So
yeah.
if we're nice guys and when everything is cool and everything is nice
but no, this is what you really believe, though.
No, it's what I believe. But
Yeah.
I think that's the controversial part of it is that they're making money. They're making money to me, and if they're making money to me, that's what business is all about. Is if Showtime or HBO were still in the business and they were gonna buy a fight, are they gonna buy a fight that creates no buzz or a fight that creates a big buzz? You know, that's what this is about. So by doing that, that's just telling you what they think as far as what the public thinks, what the public wants to see. So what the public wants to see should be a big consideration of who is pound for pound or fighter of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Should they then, based on that, make like a fighter of the year and then a businessman of the year? Like no other sports judge it that way.
Oh, of course they do. Of course they do.
Yeah.
If who's in the top right now in football? If they're obviously filling up their stadium and have a lot of fans. Why do they have a lot of fans? Why are they making a lot of money? Because they're buying players. They can buy players. They can spend them. Otani signed with the Dodgers for that's crazy amount. Why? Because they know that they can get that back by his performance. So it's the performance and the money that goes along with it that I think dictates, in my opinion anyway, dictates who drives the car. Right? In the past, I said that Canelo was driving the car, and I still think that Canelo is driving the car right now. But Inoue did such spectacular things that if he was here in the States, he'd be making the same kind of money or around the monies that Canelo's making.
Yeah, and he is selling out over there in his home country in Japan, and I'm hearing maybe a Luis Neri a fight for him in the future, which is a great fight. I don't
Now,
know if Neri can fight
him,
Japan. What's
if
up?
he destroys him,
Yeah,
that's something special along with what he's already done. Neri's a good fighter.
yeah, but
Past his prime. Past his prime. I
okay,
think that
okay,
he's had
yeah,
his better moments, but still he's a very good fighter.
because he
Nobody.
went life and death with that Art Hovhannissian earlier in 2023, and I'm just like,
he's
no, he's a different class.
yeah. He's I've heard a lot of things about him underground that he's rededicated himself. He's really training hard. So at least those are my opinions because that's what I hear and that's what I see from the gyms. But if he can do that to Neri, would be very impressive. If he does it to Neri, what he did to Fulton, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we do get a performance, a spectacular performance from Inoue when they fight. I don't even know if they're gonna fight in Japan. I thought Neri was banned from fighting in Japan because of the whole PED thing that happened a few years ago.
I thought he was also, but
Yeah,
he may not be in Japan.
probably in LA then, Staples.
Yeah, if Inoue's people are trying to market him over here, they should be over here. They're trying to market him as a pound for pound fighter and the kind of fighter that sells a lot of pay-per-views, and he should be fighting over here. I don't want to get up in the morning at 2 in the morning, and I don't think they want to fight at 2 in the morning for us to be able to see it here, or whatever time it is for us to see it here in prime time.
Yeah, I think they fight, yeah, in the morning, like at 12 noon or something like that, in order for us to get it at that time or something like that.
Prime time, right?
Yeah, No, true. Well, with that being said, Abel, I've said it. I feel Inoue should get Fighter of the Year. You feel that Inoue should be Fighter of the Year. So there we go. Now Inoue, Fighter of the Year 2023 for me and Abel. Abel, did you see the heavyweight card?
I didn't see it. I read
You
about
didn't
it.
see
I
it?
heard about it. I
Oh
didn't see it.
man.
I don't watch very many fights, but I talked to a lot of people about it. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
really surprised.
What are you the most surprised
Most
about?
surprised is about Parker and Wilder. I thought Wilder would get his groove back around the middle of the fight, get his little rhythm back, get his little timing down, but Parker fought a great fight. Parker fought the fight of his life, and the other guy never caught up. That's really the most surprising for me.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be different.
I mentioned to you when we were previewing the card, I just have this voice in the back of my mind that says, how much did those Fury fights take out of Deontay Wilder? Like, I don't think I got my answer there. Like, I was more feeling that inactivity, man, inactivity. And Parker, most of all, Parker had a very, very good game plan. He didn't allow Wilder for the most part of the fight to come forward. He always had Wilder on his back foot or moving back and forth. So, that caused Wilder to not be able to set in place to set up that right hand. And I felt like he did an excellent job, did Parker. And I'm just not surprised, but like I was just kind of like, wow, like he's in a very dangerous space, because a lot of the fight was fought in the mid space. And I was like, man, he can get cracked anytime, but he did a good job with his jab, with pushing Wilder back to avoid that.
Well, I think you asked me, can anybody win on any given night? Of course, anybody can win on any given night. But also what I said was, Wilder has always had that right hand that it's his equalizer, but the stuff has not developed along the way with him. The rest of the stuff that he needed, it came up to bite him in the butt in this particular fight, where you had a guy in there that was not to be deterred. He fought his game plan, like he and his coach put it together, and he was able to dominate. He was able to dominate because the other guy only had a right hand. He hasn't developed the other assets that he needs to be able to compete at that level. Is it because he's too hard-headed? Is it because they're not coaching him? It's not because they're not coaching him, because I know his coaches are good coaches. But you got to have a guy in there that wants to try different things, wants to try the things that are going to improve him and make him better. He had a quote in that I read. He said something about it. Now I got to go back to the drawing board and start improving and start getting better. And I agree. I agree 100%. I agree 100%, because it proved to us that what he has right now is not good enough to compete at that level. His right hand, if he can't land it, the rest of it ain't going to go along with it.
Yeah, but I feel too like inactivity is just, regardless of who it is, it's just gonna mess you up. Like you're not as sharp. Like Parker has had a lot of fights over the last few years. He's been, I think last year he had, like, this was his third fight of the year, or 2 or 3. I'm not sure. But yeah, Wilder had only had 90 seconds in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, that could have had something to do with it, but I think it's by that 5th or 6th round, in the middle of a fight, you kind of get your rhythm back, you get your timing down, you get, oh hell, I'm in a fight again, I got small gloves on. That happens when you have some inactivity. And for him, it never happened because he had not a B plan or a C plan. He just didn't have the firepower, the assets to be able to counteract what Joseph was doing. He had no alternatives. It was land the right hand, and if I land the right hand, then he's going to sleep. But if I don't land the right hand, then I'm going to keep catching what Joseph Parker's throwing at me.
Yeah, Joseph Parker now puts himself in a good spot. I think, what makes the most sense for Parker is to get a Joshua rematch. But I don't know how that's all going to shake out, because you got Fury and Usyk coming up. AJ, they made it seem, because Wilder lost, that the Saudis aren't really interested in making that Wilder Joshua fight anymore. He didn't even seem interested actually anymore. Well, no, not saying him. I think Hearn was more conveying the message like, look, AJ wants to be a champion again. He wants to go for the IBF title. He wants to fight Philip Hrgovic. So I feel Parker's right in there to position himself to get the winner of Joshua Hrgovic, especially with a big win where he won just about every single round in that fight against Wilder. Where does Wilder go from here, Abel?
I
Like,
think he's
what
got to.
happens?
I think he's got to retool. I think that he's got to get to the gym and understand that, uh, especially a guy that only weighs 215, 220, he can't muscle the guys that are in there right now. They're too big for him to muscle. So if he doesn't land that right hand, then he's in trouble. He's in trouble because they're going to be able to take everything else that he's got to offer. I think that he needs to put it in his mind that he has to allow his coaches to retool him, and it's very possible. Take 4 or 5 months in the gym with nobody around instead of having sparring. I was in his training camp with one of my fighters and sparring with him before.
Which
And I
one?
didn't see Murat Gassiev was in there sparring with him. Oh gosh, maybe 215, 216.
What camp was that for?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember who he fought. But there was 7, 8 guys, 8 sparring partners, and he used my guy more because of the way my guy fought. And Malik was very impressed with Malik Scott was in fact was there as a sparring partner at that time, and Malik was very impressed with what my guy was doing. But my guy was doing that because of preparation, because of training, because of development, because of doing things in the gym to make him better. And I didn't see that in Deontay's training camp. Even if it's a training camp, if it's 8 weeks away or 7 weeks away from the fight, you still should be working on things every day to try to improve. And I didn't see that, and I think it's evident in the way he fights. It's evident in the way he performs when he's in trouble, when he's not landing that right hand, when he has to go back and reach back and get something else that he's been practicing or learning in the gym. So what he needs to do, in my opinion, is just give his coaches a chance. Give his coaches a chance to retool him and get him a fight. I don't think that he belongs on a Joshua fight. I don't think that he earned the Joshua fight. I think that he needs 1 or 2 fights on an undercard, whether he's willing to do that or not, who knows. But on an undercard to give us the confidence again that he can perform or compete at that level.
Yeah, I was discussing this with a friend, a few friends actually. Like, well, they're obviously going to try to build Wilder back up, but a lot of people are saying like, hey, it's kind of sounds like he doesn't want to fight anymore. When he did his interview, he seemed very unsure. And then that's the other thing too is he is what I believe he's like 38 or 37, somewhere around there.
37, I
He's
think. I
yeah.
think the unfortunate thing though is when you get to that point where you've been to the mountaintop, it's difficult. Our ego doesn't allow us to go back and fight an undercard fight or fight a fight that not everybody considers a marquee fight. So he's got to put that down. If he wants to continue, he's got to put that down and go back and like I said, retool and fight one of those fights just so that he can get back in the mix.
Yeah. But the other thing too, we were saying like he has to go back to with Malik and just retool, retrain. A lot of people have brought up like, hey, can an old dog learn new tricks that quick?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can. It's up to Deontay though. It's up to Deontay to how much he allows Malik into his brain and into his psyche to not think that the right hand's all he needs. He needs to allow a coach, whether it's Malik or anybody else. Listen, he didn't allow one of the greatest welterweights ever to fight out of New York, world champion himself. He didn't allow Mark Breland to get into his head. So if he doesn't allow that coach to get into his head, and Mark Breland was the kind of the perfect specimen only at a welterweight that he is, skinny, tall, had decent hand speed, had decent power. He didn't allow him to um, put some of those characteristics of the way to fight into Deontay. So if your mind is not going to allow, your ego doesn't allow it, your pride doesn't allow it, then no, you're not going to get better. So he's got to allow Malik to be in his brain 100%.
Yeah, like I was just I don't know. I've always not believed that whole saying like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like they're set in their ways, and I was like, nah, like if you're willing to learn and put in the time, like you can, improve and gain new skills the older you. That's the whole point of life is to
It
get better and improve.
really is not a matter of learning. It's not a matter of learning. It's a matter of improving. Listen, he didn't get to that point, and he didn't win a bronze medal because he didn't know how to box. He did something. He didn't knock everybody out in the amateurs either. So he didn't get to that point not knowing how to do something inside the ring. So he just has to improve those things that he just left behind. He just and a lot of times we as coaches are guilty of that. Of, oh no, he's got a great right hand. We don't need to improve nothing. And maybe that was the case at the beginning of his career. And then it got to the point where he's 20-0, 21-0, and nobody's trying to improve him. Everybody's just saying, no, he's got a great right hand. He's got to knock everybody out. When was his first decision? At 30 fights or something like that?
Yeah, I think the first Stavern fight, right?
Was that what it was? Okay, so
Yeah,
at
I think
that
so.
point right there, is when we said, oh, that right hand's not gonna be the equalizer, not gonna knock everybody out. So it's too late at that point, but it's not too late because it's never too late to continue to improve. Listen, Gennady came to me, I think it's 16-0 or 17 or something like that, 350 amateur fights, 3-time world champion. But if you go back and look at some of his amateur fights, he was more of a European fighter, sitting on his back foot, waiting to counter. He was more of a counterpuncher. And what did we do little by little? Just imploring and working and imploring and working, we were able to transform his style to a different style, to where he was going forward and knocking people out, stronger fighter and everything. So it's not a matter of a coach is going to completely retool a guy. It's just a matter of just improving some of those things that he already has, but just making them better, just polishing them.
Mm. Yeah, Andy Ruiz was there ringside. I would think campaigning for a big fight either with Wilder or with Joshua or with the Fury Usyk winner. Now that Parker won, I would imagine that you felt that Andy won when you guys went over there and fought against Parker. Andy feels that he won also. I've talked to him about it, but that would make sense for Andy. I'm not sure if so much for Parker at this point, but with Deontay Wilder, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to give him someone to kind of bounce back, see where he is, and then the fight that makes the most sense is to go in and fight with Andy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's got to beat an Andy or somebody like Andy to be able to put himself back in the mix. But I think Joseph Parker's a different fighter, though. We fought a Joseph Parker, a very young Joseph Parker. They had all the pressure of fighting in New Zealand, had all the fans. The fight was there. He had all kinds of commitments. And I don't think we fought the best Joseph Parker that night, although I think we beat him. I think we beat him. And I told Andy when we boarded the plane here in LA, I says, right now we're 3 points down. Understand, we're 3 points down right now. So you're going to have to do something special. And I think we lost on two judges, 115, 113 on two judges cards. So it was a close fight. So that was a young Joseph Parker that fought in his homeland. It's a different Joseph Parker now. He may not be as young as he was, but he's a heck of a lot more experienced, a heck of a lot smarter inside the ring. And he's seen more things. And the other guy, as you said, Andy's been sitting on the shelf. He's been sitting down doing nothing. If it's true that he's losing weight, great for him. But if it's not, then he's doing nothing to better himself. And I think that if Wilder fights a fight against a nondescript and then fights an Andy, I think the winner of that fight could be in line for something pretty big.
Yeah, I've heard people say, and I've heard people say this also about other fighters in the heavyweight division. Like, is a bigger heavyweight better than a skinnier heavyweight? Like when you look at Andy, I've heard people say like, no, the heavier Andy is, like the better he is. And then other people are saying like, no, like Andy thinner is a lot better.
No, the stronger fighter, regardless of his weight, is a better fighter. The stronger fighter. He could be at 250 and be strong, or be at 280 and be strong. The weight's not going to give you strength. Look at Jarrell Miller.
Oh, yeah.
300. Okay, so
that was a big surprise, right?
No, that was a great big surprise. But then again, I don't want to get off on the subject. We'll get to it right now. But the weight's not going to make you stronger. The work you do inside the gym is going to get you stronger. So if Andy's at 250, but he's doing the work, or 260 and doing the work in the gym to make him stronger, to make him body strong, to make him what they call man strength, if you want to be chauvinistic and say it that way, man strength, then 250 is fine, or 280 is fine. The weight, if it's worked the correct way, if he's comfortable with that, as long as he's strong, is going to be what makes the difference, not the pounds.
So which big surprise you want to tackle? Joshua just completely
That was a big
destroying
surprise.
Fallon?
That wasn't a big surprise. I
No?
said that really wasn't as big a surprise as Jarrell. I
Yeah.
think that was a fight that I thought that I said in the last interview. I said that Ben could make a difference. Ben could motivate
Yeah, you did.
Anthony because Ben's a good coach. Ben could be the dark horse in the coaching division right now because he seems to be getting things out of guys that a lot of other guys can't. A lot of the coaches can't. So that he was able to get into his head and was able to do it with one fight, all credit to Ben Davis. I don't think that it was a fluke. The other guy was a ordinary man's Usyk. Didn't have the power, didn't have the size, and Joshua was a gold medalist with a guy in his corner that he believed in and that believed in him. So that was the difference. But the big surprise to me was Jarrell Miller. But I think Jarrell Miller, as I said to you in the last interview we did, is reminds me a lot of Greg Page. Greg Page was a guy with immense talent. Rest in peace, Greg Page. Immense talent, but he just never did enough to get to be considered with the greats. And Jarrell Miller proved to us again that whatever he did in the gym, whatever he did to prepare for this fight was just enough to prepare to fight a 10-round fight. And it wasn't enough.
Yeah, he said after the fight that he only had like what was it? 4 weeks to prepare for the fight?
When was the last time that he fought?
It's been a long time.
Okay, so he's had a long time to prepare. He didn't have 4 weeks. He's had a long time to prepare. This is listen, in all other sports, whether it be baseball, football, golf, anything, today anyway, in this era, if you're not practicing 365 days a year, you're not playing. You're not playing in any of those sports. It's not like the old days. So if a fighter is completely out of the gym and not in training condition, then it's his fault. He's had all this time to prepare, not only mentally, physically, diet-wise, everything. This is what he wanted, not what anybody put in front of him. This is what he wanted. He knew that it was a fight coming up, whether it be 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 2 years. He knows there's a fight coming up, unless he's retired, which he's not. So for that excuse doesn't fly for me. It's his fault.
Yeah, maybe they put Wilder against Big Baby Miller.
Ooh, that's an interesting fight. That's an interesting fight.
Marcos the matchmaker. Right?
But you know what? Jarrell Miller gets in better shape for that one.
Probably.
Yeah, and then we go with the difference in where you're talking about the weight. If somebody can go back and retool Deontay Wilder to make him stronger, body strong, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the benching 400 pounds. I'm talking about body strong so that he can withstand the pounds that's going to be coming at him. It could be an interesting fight.
Yeah, and Dubois, resurrecting, not even Dubois and AJ both resurrecting their careers. Like people are saying, like, yo, that's the AJ we remember. That's the old AJ. Like, where was this AJ like for those Usyk fights? That's the one that we all knew was there all along.
I would say that that's more of a very true 100% statement than Dubois' statement. I think Dubois just fought a guy that wasn't prepared. Dubois is a good fighter, but that's as good as he's going to get against a Jarrell Miller. Okay, Anthony Joshua went back to that gold medalist, went back to that superstar that he really, really is.
Yeah, he has to tap into that again. I don't know what Ben did or what AJ did. Something happened there that just made things click. And obviously, too. Was that?
It was a click.
It was a click.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Emmanuel Stewart had that magic. Emmanuel Stewart could take a guy that just lost against your fighter or his fighter and come back and retool him a little bit mentally. He did that to Vladimir. He did that to Lennox. He did that to a lot of good fighters that made them great fighters. There's some coaches that just can click with a fighter and all of a sudden they look like the superstar they were supposed to be.
Yeah, I want to pick his brain, pick Ben's brain too, and be like, yo, dude, what did you do? Like, this was missing for like years, ever since Andy, the defeat to Andy. This was missing. It was always a safety first approach from AJ after he lost to Andy, and like I don't know, maybe AJ felt like there was a lot on the line. Like maybe he felt like his career was on the line, and he had to do something like that.
No, I think guys like Emmanuel, maybe Ben's one of these guys also. We don't know because this is the only guy we've seen him do this with. Guys like Emmanuel, those coaches have a way of getting in psychologically into somebody's head and convincing them of how great they are, and then they show us. Emmanuel did it many times, not only with heavyweights but with a lot of fighters. His demeanor in the corner, his demeanor in the gym, his what he said to you, and maybe Ben's been listening to Emmanuel in the back of his head. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows, man? But whatever he's doing, keep on doing it. That's the AJ I want to keep seeing, because that AJ will make a lot more interesting fights. That AJ against a Fury or anyone else is going to be a handful. That's for sure.
That was interesting. I think we discussed this in the last one. That Derek said that he was going to Ben for this fight. Ooh, how does that work out now?
Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah. Well, you would think if he did so well with Ben, like why mess that up?
Yeah,
That's any,
a tough
but that
choice.
it is,
It's a
but
tough
that's
choice, and it's a tough. How can I say, news-wise for Derek? I mean, that's not good for Derek. Or can Derek and Ben work together? It's gonna be difficult. Could be difficult. It's gonna be a tough choice for Joshua, and it's gonna be a controversial choice for Joshua because he said so many great things about Derek at the beginning, and then he goes to Ben and he looks spectacular. What does he do?
yeah.
They're both great coaches.
Well, it's like, okay, Joshua has to. Well, I know a lot of this is relationships, and I'm sure AJ just wants to be cool with everybody, but like he'll at the end of the day, he's the one that calls shots, and he has to look at it like how a sports team looks at it. Like, hey, you have a star player, you sub him out, and the sub does spectacular. You're gonna keep the sub in because he's on a streak. He's in a moment. Like, you're not gonna take him out. That's like the last World Cup when Portugal they subbed out Cristiano Ronaldo for a sub, and then that sub went in, and like a minute later scored a goal, and he kept scoring and scoring and scoring, and Ronaldo was on the bench for the rest of the World Cup pretty much. He didn't start anymore after that game.
It's what's best for the situation, and right now, what's best for the situation because of one fight though, is Ben, because of one fight.
One fight, yeah. Well, we'll see if they can work together. I think that's still in the benefit of AJ. But then again, there's that saying, you got too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, I've never had an assistant in my gym, so I can see that could be a problem. It could be because there's, like I said, two great coaches with two different mindsets and two different approaches and two different, completely different approach to how they fight and how they motivate a guy. And one guy's got four other guys that he has to train, and one guy has none, or none at that level anyway. So it's a tough choice.
Yeah, but the future is looking bright for AJ.
Oh, absolutely.
That's for sure. And with all the other guys that won on the card, Abel, as we look to 2024, to you, what are the fights that need to happen? What's the biggest fight or the biggest fights you want to see happen in 2024?
Canelo David.
Canelo David, yep.
David.
I agree. Yep. That needs to happen. That absolutely needs to happen.
Okay, Bivol Beterbiev.
That I think that's gonna happen. You got Beterbiev fighting coming up, I believe in like a week or something, defending his titles against Callum Smith.
Yeah. I don't think Tank will get down to 130, but I would love to see Tank in Inoue at 130.
That ain't gonna happen.
I know. That's just for making.
Hank's gonna make him come up. And even then, Inoue was asked. It didn't seem like Inoue was very interested in that fight.
No, he says that Tank is the man.
Yeah.
He has a lot of respect for Tank. And you know what? That's great to hear, too. Guys acknowledging somebody else's talents. Tyson Fury and Usyk, I know that's going to happen soon.
Yep.
And then the winner against Joshua. I think that's the fight that I would like to see right now.
If Usyk wins, though, you want to, based on how he looked, would you want to see an Usyk Joshua 3? No.
Yeah. I think Fury will win, though. That's why I said it that way.
He's the favorite, but hey, you don't know because of that Ngannou fight.
Yeah, well, I think that he will prove himself in a Joshua fight and a Fury fight. Then again, we're gonna go if it's a decision. Okay, let's just say it's a decision and they fight, but it just Fury and
Usyk?
Joshua.
Oh,
And
Joshua.
Joshua.
Okay.
And Joshua. And it doesn't matter who wins. But if it generates the kind of crazy money that I'm talking about, and it's not as good as say a Terrence Spence again or a Terrence Ennis again, but if that one generates a tenth or a 20th of what, who's pound for pound? That's
You're gonna say Fury?
of course, of course. It's gotta be for me again. It's who's driving the car. That's who's driving. That's the face of boxing. It's not the other guy that's the face of boxing. Right now, Canelo's the face of boxing, in my opinion. Uh, it would be interesting to go back and look at the what do they call that? The searches for fighters or
Oh, the
for
Google searches.
who the Google searches
Yeah.
to see who's the most popular fighter worldwide, not just
Mm.
in America, worldwide. And I would venture to say it would be Canelo. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would say that because he is right now to me the face of boxing.
Yeah, still is. Still is. I feel when you ask someone, hey, you know, when
You know anything
you
about boxing? Yeah, I know. You mean
yeah, yeah,
Canelo? You know,
yeah.
that's what they hear. That's what you hear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey,
Yeah.
name a boxer that you know of. They're gonna
Yeah.
more than likely they're gonna say
Yeah.
Canelo.
And when it
Yeah.
was Tyson, it was Tyson. When it was Floyd, it was Floyd. When it was Julio, and there was other fighters that were great in those eras too. But
Mm.
that's the name that kind of sticks in your brain.
Yeah, no, for sure. 2024. I feel that we have to see Canelo versus Benavidez. You know, I want to see. I still want to see Crawford and Charlo, but you know, Charlo got himself in a little bit of trouble. I don't think he's going to be fighting anytime soon, given the situation that he found himself in. What else? What else? And no way, Tank would be awesome, but I don't think very
Ennis,
likely.
Ennis needs to fight somebody to put himself in that.
Yeah, but at 147, I feel like you know
They're
Danny
moving
moved
up.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they're
moving
moving
up.
up. Danny moved
Virgil
up.
moved up.
Spence
Yeah,
moved up. Virgil moved up. Like who's the only one that's left is Thurman.
he's
And
not. He's
Thurman
old
does
news.
need a fight.
He's old news though.
Mm,
He's not somebody that's going to generate even for Ennis. Is going to generate unless Ennis just destroys him. But
mm.
I don't think he's going to be anybody at
Unless
that weight right now.
Ennis, unless he sticks around to when the 140 guys start moving up, the guys like
Yeah,
Ryan and
he's
Teo
young.
and all them.
He's
Yeah.
still young though. He only has like maybe what 25 fights. 20,
Who? Ennis?
Ennis.
Let me pull up and see how old he is. But he is a young. I won't say he's not in his
You know,
late
I
20s.
had both of his brothers in camp with Gennady.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he was a baby, but
26,
yeah,
31 and 0, 28
yeah,
knockouts. Jeez, 28 knockouts, 31 fights. That tells you something. The guy can hit.
he can hit. His brothers were good fighters, but not. His father made the best one the last one, but Farah and Pooh Ennis were in camp sparring with Gennady. Remember back in the early like 2012, 2013. And we heard about his their little brother, but that's all we did was hear. We never saw him.
You never
But he's
saw me.
doing very well.
Yeah.
You know, who wins the Bivol Beterbiev fight for you?
Uh, I don't know because in that Bivol fight, the Lyndon Arthur, who didn't have a lot of punching power, he fought to. I feel he fought a very conservative fight. I don't want to say like a lot of people say, oh, he fought to not get knocked out or whatever, but I felt like he was trying to fight a very disciplined fight, but he caught Bivol with a body shot that clearly hurt Bivol. Like he like hunched over, grabbed that side, and moved back. And I'm just thinking, if I'm Better Biev and his team and his coach right there, that's how we're gonna get Bivol. Yeah, he might be faster, he might move around, but we're gonna walk this dude down and just go to his body because he can get hurt to the body. And I think now that I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking maybe that's the reason why Canelo took that fight against Bivol too. Like they saw, like, hey, this guy's open to the body, to body attacks.
Yeah, the difference I think in the two fights is that Canelo's 100
Yeah.
say 147 pounder, and the other guy was a full 175 pounder. So I have a fighter named Arsen Gulamiran, who's a WBA cruiserweight champion. Should have said I worked with him for since 2016. But anyway, he told me that he sparred with Beterbiev back in 214 or 213, and he says that's the strongest guy he's ever sparred with in any division. Strongest body wise, strongest, heaviest puncher, heaviest hands. So I tend to think that Beterbiev may be able to beat Bivol, even though Bivol to me is one of the soundest fighters technically wise that I've seen in a long, long time. But I think Beterbiev is going to just overpower him, outmuscle him, walk him down, and eventually catch him. I think Beterbiev wins the fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people after seeing that Arthur fight might agree with you, Abel, just because, hey, look, if Arthur landed that punch and it hurt Bivol, what's going to happen when you got a guy like Beterbiev that's nonstop pressure coming after you? But on the same side, I think Bivol is going to learn from that, tighten up that, that defect, that lack of concentration for that moment, and be 1,000% better for this Beterbiev fight if Beterbiev beats Callum Smith.
Yeah, well, he's going to beat Callum Smith, but I think Mark Ramsey, his coach, is
a
very smart coach, and he will have noticed that, and they will work on trying to get that shot in. But if not, he's just going to be too strong. They're going to muscle him. I know that Bivol will tie him up. Bivol will do everything to try to negate anything that Beterbiev, but he will be too strong for him. Beterbiev is a 175 pounder from a 200 pounder and 175 pound body. I think that he's just going to be, eventually will be just too strong.
Yeah, he might be losing every single round of the fight, and then he wears him down and everything. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe Bivol will be able to hit and move in last 12 rounds.
Yeah, I think that he's capable of doing that. I just don't see it happening. I just
well, he has to get his respect right away.
Yeah.
Right
but
away.
Remember, he's not punching at a guy like Canelo that he could just throw 5-6 punches and Canelo wasn't going to fire back. He's punching at a guy that is a brick wall. He's punching at a guy that's very, very strong and very hard puncher himself. So anything that Beterbiev hits him with is going to hurt him. If the last fight they were able to hurt him in the body, Beterbiev is going to hurt him anywhere he hits him.
Well, that's why they fight the fights, Abel, for us to see what happens.
Is that being talked about after the
fight? So I asked, I actually had a chance to interview Arthur, and I asked him, like, hey, have the Saudis told you if you beat Callum Smith that they're going to make this fight between you and Bivol in Saudi Arabia? Like, that will be the next fight for you.
Him and Beterbiev, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, him and Beterbiev and Bivol. I asked that to Beterbiev, and he told me, like that's what they've told me. They want that fight. For undisputed, yeah. So
that's a good fight. That's a big fight.
Yeah,
that's a big fight.
It is. Yeah. I'm excited for it. Just to kind of see the dynamic, because he is a strong guy, but Beterbiev is very hittable, very, very hittable.
Yeah, and so was Matias when he fought Egershoff.
Hey, do you hear about Egershoff? That he got stabbed in the leg, and that's why he was having leg problems.
No, he was having leg problems because of Matias was hitting him.
Yeah.
That didn't bother him the first 3 rounds that he was hitting him with. The leg didn't bother him, did
it? Very true. Yeah, but no, there was a photo of like, I guess he had gotten stabbed and he was still having problems with the leg, and he went into the fight with leg problems. But Matias is just a different class, honestly.
Did he look like he had leg problems in the first 2 or 3 rounds?
I'm not familiar with Ergashev. Like he seemed fine. He seemed fine.
He was hitting Matias with everything he could hit him with. Everything.
Maybe that's why though. Maybe that's why he was hitting him with everything, because he knew, like, hey, dude, my leg's like messed up. I just gotta throw it all out there and just kind of see what happens.
How long before the fight did he get stabbed? Do you know?
Let me look it up. I want to say a few months before.
Really?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Ergashev.
Surprised that wasn't announced
stabbed.
Or that wasn't set prior to the fight.
Let's see here.
If it's news.
So Jahan Ergashev revealed that he had been stabbed in his leg before the fight against Matias. It happened in Moscow about 7-8 months before the fight.
Oh, that's a long time. Come on.
It's a long time, yeah. But I don't know.
It's a good excuse though.
We don't know how bad it was. Like, look when Benavidez got shot, and then he went and fought Crawford,
But how long was that? Years.
No, I think that was a few months after too, Benavidez. No. Yeah.
Look it up.
No, I think he went into the fight like 9 months after.
Oh, you said a couple months, a few months. Come on, that's a year.
Oh yeah, close to a year. Okay. More than half a year. Yeah. So
time to recoup and train.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So when you look at 2024, Abel, I feel 2023 was the best year of boxing we've had in the last like 16 years, honestly, in terms of the fights that we got. I guess, what do you wish for 2024? What do you think the promoters need to do in order to keep growing the sport and keep boxing as a whole still relevant in the American and international sports landscape?
Well, first of all, I think that we had a situation there in 2021, 22, where we weren't getting fights because of the restrictions that were. So when we're finally through with the restrictions, everybody came out, and 23 was a great year. You're right. We had some great fights, a lot of good fighters fighting each other. I don't think it's up to the promoters. I think it's up to the coaches and the managers to start developing talent. We need talent. We're lacking in talent that prior years or before, say in the early 2000s and mid 2000s, we had a lot of talent. We had a lot of talented fighters with actual skills. Today we have stars, but there's very few stars that don't have other stars to fight. So I think it's up to the development that we need to have in our farm system, let's just say our amateur system and our young pros, not to rush these guys into things that they're not ready for. Let them develop. Boots Ennis finally at 20 some or 30 some fights is getting or getting to be a champion. You see guys with 10 fights fighting for a world title. I don't think that's fair to the sport. It's not fair to the talent. And that's how you keep guys from really developing into great superstars. So I think it's up to the coaches and the managers now to slow it down, in my opinion, to slow it down and allow these guys to develop so that one day maybe we'll get these a lot of superstars in they can call each other peers.
Yeah, but that's difficult sometimes, Abel, because if you're presented a payday, like you as a trainer and a fighter and a manager, you're going to look at it and be like, hey, you never know what's going to happen with the next fight. Like we got to take this fight.
Listen, we could be at war tomorrow. I mean, that's a crazy way of looking at it. We have to wait. We have to let them grow. Me as a coach, I've always said it to all the managers that I've ever worked with. I want to see my fighter, if I'm going to start a fighter from turning pro, I want to see four rounders, 4 6 rounders, 4 8 rounders, 4 10 rounders. Then we look at something, because you got to get the rounds in. You got to get the training camps in. You got to get the fights in so that my guy develops into that fighter that we hope he is as a world champion. If you don't allow him to develop, Deontay Wilder is a prime example that we were talking at the beginning. Nothing developed. So what do we get? We get to the point and all of a sudden he has 2 good fights and he's gone. Some of the great fighters that we talk about had 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 fights, great fights. Why? Because they had the talent to back them up. Anthony Joshua, hopefully now that he's resurrected a little bit with Ben, but Anthony Joshua had a great amateur career, gold medalist, so he had the background. Some of these other guys don't have the background. I think that's what's hurting our sport.
But then that goes into the more systemic problem of like how the farm system is working in boxing with USA Boxing and the international tournaments in boxing, where there is a lot of corruption and amateurs don't want to participate in it. They rather go pro because they don't want to be treated unfairly in these international tournaments.
No, and I agree 100%. But there's a lot of club shows where a manager could, instead of coming in, managers come in and they want FaceTime. They want to be in the ring. They want to be seen by everybody that I got a fighter. Wait, let these fighters fight these club shows. Let them develop. Let them get into the motives to learning. It's the development stages of your career instead of wanting to be on TV. Develop the talent. And there's club shows here in Southern California where we're at. There's probably every weekend is 3 or 4 club shows. So there's a lot of club shows where the guys can develop the skills. The problem is guys don't want to spend any money. Managers don't want to spend any money. Managers want the return right away. They're not the managers that we had in the past, where the manager was willing to put out, and sponsors were willing to put out the money and allow the talent to develop. Now everybody wants their money back in a hurry. Me as a coach, I'm willing to invest my time. I'm willing to invest my time in development so that when we get there, we all make it. Instead of thwarting a talent at 10 fights and we get a loss or we get a draw, we look like crap and nobody wants us anymore. So I think that we need to invest time and unfortunately money.
Yeah, but that's the big thing, with investors, given the current economic climate. They want the return, or at least a guarantee on the return. That no one, at the end of the day, no one wants to lose money. But that's the name of the game with investments. Like, you got to know, you invest what you're willing to lose.
Correct.
And also you look at it well, at least I do. I look at it at, a long term. Like, yeah, I'm not going to make any of my money back in the first few years, but I'm looking at 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Yeah, I want my guy to win a title, but I don't want him to lose it in his first defense. I want my guy to win a title, and I want him to defend it through. You don't make any money winning the title. You make nothing winning the title.
It's after.
It's after. It's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth defense. That's how you make the money. And if they're not good enough to hold it for more than 1 or 2, how many champions have you seen recently that lose the fight in their first defense? We only have superstars that are like Inoue, like Crawford, like Joshua, guys that hold it for 2, 3 defenses, or move up in weight and hold it for 2, 3 defenses. But how many, you can probably go back and research it. In last year, how many guys lost their title in the first fight, in the first defense? It shouldn't be. It should be that you win it, and now this is where we start making defenses. And again, I know I keep saying money, but this is what this is all about. The champion didn't win the title to have the trinket, to have the trophy. He won the title, hopefully, to set his family up for the future. So I think that that's what's missing in our sport, is the development.
To wrap things up, Abel, just for 2024, if you had to pick one fight, your wish, one fight has to happen, what is that fight?
Canelo David.
Canelo Benavidez?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been thinking about too that also. I think ultimately I would land on Canelo Benavidez, but I think, and this is just off the top of my head, a second close fight for me would either be Gervonta and Inoue or Gervonta and Haney.
I like the first one that you said, but I think that David hasn't earned it yet. I'll put a caveat to that. David hasn't earned it yet. You think he has to earn it in May and then fight in September. But for me, the second one would be a Tyson Fury AJ fight.
Yeah. Well, now with the result that he had, I think there'd be a stronger push. But we got to see what happens.
Corner, though.
With Ben in his corner. With Ben in his corner. Yeah. Hey, props to Ben, man. He kind of got written off after he stopped training Fury, and he's a young cat and he works hard. So props are in order to him to get that out of AJ as well. But Abel, as always, thank you for chatting it up with me, reviewing the fight of the year and our wishes for the next fight that we hope to happen in 2024. Hey guys, I just want to go ahead and thank you guys for watching us over here on Fight Hub. For Abel and myself, thank you guys, and have a great rest of your 2024. Make it a good one.